At this stage, our project looks quite good. We could, if we wanted to, just create a copy of those pages across the other side, and we would have a reasonable looking book model finished. What I would like to do though is add a little bit more character to it by changing some of these pages a bit. First, on the spine here, where the pages come into the spine, typically on a hardback book you actually get a curvature in the other direction on this inner part of the spine with a shape in there that is part of the binding. So I'm going to distort each of these pages in order to give me that curvature. Then for the top page I'm going to ultimately distort that a little bit more to add a bit more kind of curve and flare into that to make this look a bit more individual. So let's go up to View, tile the windows horizontal again. I'm going to zoom in on the bottom part here, same in the 2D view. And what I'm going to do in turn with each of these is select the page. I'm going to come to Distort Selected Objects, choose the option for the bounding box there, and then I'm just going to come in and adjust that, move it over a little bit. I'm going to click Escape to go out of that function, click on the next one, hit Apply to be on the distortion for the bounding box. Again, we're just going to jog that corner over a little bit there. Hit Escape to come out of there, select the next one, hit Apply, jog that over a little, hit Escape, select the next one, hit Apply, and jog that over and up a little as well. This may take a bit of tweaking between these. In between you can just hit Escape on each one, go back to the edit envelope, hit Escape again. Need to just select between those. And then once you're happy with that shape, we can hit close on there and go back to the Z view. Make sure everything else still looks okay with the pages and their way that they're combining and overlapping with each other. Let's just hit F on the keyboard to fit the top view. What I want to do now, before I start distorting the top page, is create my copy of these pages over on the right hand side. So I'm going to select all the page components from within the component tree here. Need to make sure to click on those so that they're selected in the 2D view, so the focus is in the 2D view, and that means I can use the shortcut Control Shift H in order to create a horizontal copy of those objects. And then we can see that appear on the other side. Orientation should be correct for those. And again, if we wanted to at this stage, we could pretty much cut this model as is. What I'm going to do though is add a little bit more character to the top two pages and just use the distortion tools on those as well. So at this stage, let's save this file so that you have a copy of it that you could open if you wanted to. I'm going to call this 5 book finish, put it in the book project folder, hit save, and so if you want to you can open it and you'll be at this stage. The next thing we're going to do is distort a few of the pages in order to give them a little bit more curvature and interest. So I'm going to select the top page on the left hand side here. I'm going to come over to Distort Selected Objects and choose the option for the bounding box, hit Apply, and we're going to come over the top and hit B to change that to a bezier, come over the left and hit B to change that to a bezier, and then over the bottom and hit B to make that into a bezier curve. Now we can adjust this if we want. Just going to move that window up a little bit. Going to move the page over, bend this down, bend this out. Okay, and we can see the effect that that's having on the bottom here. We can adjust any of these parts if we want. We can use the arrow keys if we want to do it a little more controlled. And basically you just keep playing with these the drag handles there until you're happy with the way that the page looks there, till you're happy that you've got what you're looking for in terms of the curvature in there. So I'm happy with the left hand side now and the way that looks, so I can hit close. I'm going to come over, and what I may want to do is select the page underneath it and just change that a little. So if we come into here and select that, let's just fit the window, come to the distortion. Remember, this already was distorted when we worked on the bit in the spine, so I can just click on the edit envelope, and then if we go over the, just click to make sure you're in the 2D view, go over the edge there, and then we might just come in and just very subtly change that in order to kind of reflect the page above it a little bit and to transition more into the ones below. We can hit escape on that once we're happy with it. Close this. Now I zoom in and select the top page over on the other side. We'll come back to the distortion tool, hit apply to put the bounding box over it, hit B on the keyboard to change that to a bezier, top and the bottom as well. And then once again we can just edit that, give it whatever extra little curvature we want in the shape there in order to change the way that that is interacting with the rest of the part and how it looks. This is obviously a very subjective process because you're just going to modify this in the way that you want in order to give it whatever kind of change of shape that you would like it to have. Just make sure you select the right nodes if you're editing. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit close and we can hit F to fit that. We can take a look at the part, make sure we're happy with the way that looks, and at this stage I'm going to go File, Save As, and we'll call it 6 Book Finish Dash Edit and hit Save. Now at this stage I can see that while we were distorting the top pages, we've got a very small gap here. You've got to have pretty good eyes to see that, but you can see we've created a small gap between the two pages. When we come to finish this off, that's not going to be good because we'll create an odd situation when we come to smooth or sculpt this. So if I zoom in and just measure that gap approximately there, we can see it's a little under 0.03. Very small gap, but it would make a difference. So what I'm going to do is just select that top page, come to move, I'm going to move that 0.015, half the distance over in X. I'm going to take this right hand page and move that negative 0.015 and hit apply. We can see that has just closed up that gap there. If we look at the 3D model, we can also see that there's no gap between the two of those. Next I want to create a shape which is going to represent the inner part of the spine, which is just going to give a kind of a natural end to the pages in here. Just zoom in on that area in both the 2D and the 3D view. The 2D view, I'm going to draw a polyline on the outside edge of the pages, making sure it's straight vertically select that, Control, Shift and H to create a horizontal copy. I'm going to draw a polyline then between the endpoints of this, hit space, and draw a polyline at the top between the endpoints of this and hit space. I'm going to right mouse click to go out of the polyline tool, select this bottom one, hit N for node editing, B to create a bezier vector, and then just stretch that up to give us that kind of round spine shape. Make sure it lies outside of the edge of the pages here. Next, I'm going to select these two vectors, shift and select the bottom shape here, 2-rail sweep, and make sure I've got nice even lines. Set this to merge, call this spine inner, hit apply. I can see that we're going to need to raise that up there. We can do that afterwards by adding a base height to it, so I'm happy with that. We'll hit close. Now what I also want to do is crop that shape back, so I could use those same set of vectors if I wanted. I'm going to select all 4 of those, choose the option to join open vectors, hit join, close, select the component, shift and select that closed vector outline, come onto the modeling tab and hit clear area of selected components, so that now we've cleared that out. Now we can take that component, come to change the properties. I'm going to add a base height of 0.1 and see how that looks, and that actually looks very good. Happy with the way that's come out. Hit close, hit F to fit those two in there. I'm just going to take these 2 vectors that we've created there, right mouse click, move to layer, new layer. I'm going to make it invisible and inactive and just call it spine and copy curve, so that we have those on a different layer. And at this stage we'll go up to File, Save As, and we'll save this as 7 Book Finish Edit 2. Once that's saved, we can look at smoothing this now, and then if we want we could create some toolpaths as well to finish it off. Let's come up now, select all the components we've created. I'm going to select the top one, shift and select the bottom one to make sure they're all selected. Right mouse click and choose the option to group, and we'll just shrink that group down. Right mouse click, rename that and call it book unsmoothed. And with a couple of choices before we go ahead and smooth or sculpt on this. We could just make a duplicate copy and then keep that as a safe copy within the part, or it may be that we actually want to take this now and save a 3D clip file that could be imported into another session of Aspire, but will also act as a safe copy of this. To do that, we'd right mouse click, choose the option to export as 3D clip art. In the folder, I'm going to select a 3D, or I'm going to choose the name Book Unsculpted and save that as a .3D clip file, and you could find that then in the project folder for this example. Now we have that safe copy, we can take the selected group, go into the smooth function, tells me that the component must be baked, which is okay because we've created that safe copy now. It's going to bake all those components together. We can smooth that. Probably not going to go too much, just a little bit to round off the edges of the pages, just soften everything up. About a third of the way along, and hit OK. And now we can adjust the height of this and create toolpaths on it if we would like. At this point we may want to say File, Save As, and just save this as 8 Book Complete, so that we have a copy of it at this stage on the disk. So let's select that object, We can change its size and position if we want before machining. So maybe we want to come in, set selected object size. Perhaps we want to make it a little bit bigger. So maybe go to 14. See how that looks. Close and hit F9 in order to fit that into the part there. If we don't think our material is big enough now, we probably want to change the size of that. So let's come over to the drawing tab. Let's click set dimensions here. Maybe we'll change this to a piece of material which is 16 by 10. And perhaps at this stage we also want to change the origin to the lower left for machining and choose the option to center data in job. I'm going to hit OK. Next, under the modeling tab, we'll select and go to the properties, and we'll see what kind of height we're working with here. Pretty close to 3/4 of an inch. Planning to cut this out of 1-inch material, so that's actually probably going to work quite well. So we'll leave that as is. And before we create the toolpaths, we do need to fit a vector boundary around the object, so make sure it's selected. We'll go to create vector boundary from the selected object, and there's our outline vector. Now if we go over to the toolpath tab, we can make sure that vector's selected. Come into the material setup. I'm going to put in a small gap above 0.05, take the default settings for the rest of this and hit OK. Now I'm going to create a roughing toolpath. Machining allow, we'll first select a 0.25 inch end mill. I'm going to edit that. Just check the parameters. I'm happy with those. We'll use the defaults. Put in a boundary vector offset of 0.18, so we make sure the tool rolls round and down the side of the part, and we'll go ahead and hit calculate. I'm going to change the material color to cherry for our preview. Preview that toolpath. Next, with the same vector selected, I'm going to choose the finishing option. In this case, we'll select a 0.125 ball nose. Again, just check the parameters look okay. Obviously, you'll want to adjust these parameters to suit your machine if you're actually going to cut the part. We're going to go with a boundary vector offset of 0.1. Hit calculate. Just wait a second while that creates our finishing toolpath. Let's maximize the 3D view now and preview the finishing toolpath so we can see how that's going to look. So that looks good. I like the definition we've got there. We can see the edges of the pages. It looks very clean. We can finish off now by coming back. Again, make sure the vector's still selected. I'm going to choose the profile option. I'm going to cut through 1 inch of material. We may want to edit the cut, so we're taking slightly deeper passes. I'm going to go around the outside, hit calculate, preview, delete waste material, and there we can see what our finished part is going to look like once this is machined. At this stage, I'm going to go up to File, Save As, and we'll call this Book Complete. We'll actually put in 9 book, and we'll actually call it toolpaths, 9 book toolpaths, and that'll be saved in the project folder there with the other projects. And that concludes this tutorial on modeling an open book in Aspire.